it's like selfish. You wanted to hear this man speak.
Yeah.
So you got him to speak, and just so happens we get the benefit of it as well.
I thought you were saying that your friend was into like. I thought you were trying to introduce her as being.
Oh no,
some sort
this
of
isn't like well, this isn't like self-interest anyway.
Really?
Fiona for short.
Yeah, sure.
Oh well, enlightened self-interest will not call you that. Well, I know I should introduce Grant, I suppose. I forgot. I'm not very good at a lot of this. And Grant is, what am I supposed to say, Grant? I don't know anything.
Very hard to describe me, actually. Look, I could perhaps introduce myself a little bit.
Oh, fantastic. Good idea.
I've been travelling in this wake-up kind of enlightenment consciousness, or whatever you want to call it, since I had a sudden shock in my life back in 1994. You know how the universe has got a way of shaking you up and say, hey, snap out of it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got one of those moments, and it was so profound that it was a reality to me in such a way that there's nothing in this world that can describe it. I think everyone's had a glimpse of that from time to time. And you know that, come in. It's Shirley, is it?
Yes.
Come in, Shirley.
Oh, and I've got to introduce my friend Shirley.
We have a chair here for you, Shirley.
Oh, thank you very much. No, stand up while I give their undivided attention. This is Shirley. She has a ET said it was good that we have transformation centres from our talk last week. Shirley has her own transformation centre, which has been going for
30 years.
30 years. She every once a month she arranges a talk through the Theosophical Society, and they have a different guest speaker come up from Melbourne. But this person has been the one that's done this for 30 years. I mean, how amazing is that?
Isn't that amazing? I think it's amazing.
Now, Shirley, when's your next meeting, in case again anybody wants to go to another event?
First Sunday in September
At the
Madela's Community Centre.
Oh, local.
yes, yeah, and they have a lovely lunch. Even if you just go for the lunch.
I go for the food.
So anyway, this is Shirley. She's somebody that we could be very proud of.
Hello, Shirley.
Thank you.
Sit down, Shirley.
Shirley.
And she's under my meditation.
I was just in the process of introducing myself. You came just in the nick of time.
Oh.
I was just describing my initiation into the self-discovery of my authentic reality, which is my original being that I'd forgotten a long time ago that I ever had. And so, the circumstances in this world had a way of putting me into a place where I suddenly realised the unreality of this world and a greater reality inside of me which seemed so profound and powerful, I couldn't even deny it. Some people call that a born-again experience, or rebirthing, or an awakening to your original spark of life. I don't know what people call it, but to me it was just such a coherent, sudden realisation that I'm far greater than I'd ever imagined. And I know the same applies for each and every one of you. I know we came from source, you can call it, I say God sometimes, because I come from a Christian background actually. Well, christened as a child. At the age of 45, I suddenly ended up in a church. In my distress, in my despair, I ended up in a church. And I found that there was a lot of helpfulness there. I also found there was some discrepancies in the way it was pronounced, according to my profound revelation of this power that works. So there it was. I came out of the world, my circumstances had crushed me, my world fell apart. Thank God. Right, that's what I say. Because if I had continued on thinking this world was true, even though there's many beautiful things in this world, and we do see flashes of heaven in between the cracks of time, If I carried on thinking this world was true and I was trying to make something real out of it when it's really in a state of decay, and something is emerging in the midst of it, something is emerging in the midst of it, which is far greater than we could ever imagine in a world of separation. Well, I think we better get another chair.
Yeah.
I think we can.
Another chair.
Introductions again.
This is Janine.
Hi, Jenny.
She's a new Nexus person. She came last time and I was so excited because she lives in Hastings and I'm looking for Hastings cups of tea type. Hey, how are you?
Cups of tea type people.
So this is Janine. Yeah.
We're going to, perhaps we can just pull back a little bit more and squeeze one more in here. Be lovely.
Oh, I'll go that way then.
I have got that camera going, so. Okay, that's good.
Do you want me over here?
Well, we've got a gap here now. Maybe we'll put
Sorry.
one in.
Someone else comes before. Created a doorway. Someone else might come.
Have someone we
Or do you want me to move back? What's a big hole?
So I've just been warming up by introducing myself and why I'm here today to speak about what I know, about what's been my reality. I've just been describing how this world had crushed me. I had a lot of things happen in my life. I had a big business going, had a good family going, and I had a lovely time in my life, and all of a sudden those things just suddenly came to a crunch. And that crunch was enough to knock the stumps out from under me and to actually show me that there's a greater reality in my life to be found. Rediscovered, actually. Rediscovered. Because I found that all of us are so magnificent, so wonderful, and so beautiful, perfect, amazing. I can't find enough beautiful words to describe our origination and our true creation. I can't find enough words. Because that's what we are, really. Magnificent. And in this world, as we know, we learn through all the many things we're studying, this world has sort of been designed to shut us down and keep us away from the knowledge of our own magnificence. And we see today people talking about all of the things in this world, you know, whether it's all the chemtrails, the fluoride, and all the other stuff, the electromagnetic frequencies, the education, and everything else in this world. You can just look at the plethora of things that are here to actually keep us distracted from our core reality. My talk today is about unveiling the real you. Unveiling the real you. Because many of us have had glimpses of the real you. You know, oh, it's me, oh, it's gone again. Because this world is so distracting. It takes us away from our power, and we give power to other things which control us. And these other things generally are a non-reality anyway. They're just sort of like what I call vain imaginations, miscreations, thoughts of history that keep on repeating in our lives and perpetuating themselves on the stage of our own life here. It's a witness that there's something wrong. And when I found my power, which I refer to now, having done my studies, I'll just show you a few things I've studied. I've studied a thing called Kathara, which is, Kathara is light, sound, one. It talks about the light and sound fields, electromagnetic frequencies that create the reality of your own hologram of existence in space-time and matter manifestation. It says, how did you get here? How are you doing it to yourself? How can you bring a new light reassociation in your mind to restore unto yourself the power of your own purpose and function here? In other words, why are you doing it to yourself? How did it happen? And it's the metaphysical teaching that is so profound. It started off in about 1998 and it's still going now today. I've got at home probably 50 to 60 DVD sets and all the technology that went with it, and it's very graphic, it's very heady, it's very, it's graphs and timings, it's histories as well. It's like, it tells you about, here's the big black Bible. I also delve into this stuff, but in a metaphysical understanding. I'll just get that book out of there. A few books in here, haven't I? This here is a book that started off the Kathara journey with me. It's called Voyages, The Secrets of a Mentee. This one's called Voyages, Sleeping Abductees. And it tells us that many people on the planet have been abducted and they don't even know it, right? And they've been programmed with preset controls to make them function in a certain way and fulfill certain agendas in the planet of another order that is not particularly in our own best interest. Voyagers 2 is the secrets of a Menti, and it says how this Earth came from a higher dimension of what we call organic perpetual motion life. In other words, we had already a higher consciousness evolution and experience until something happened and there was a devastation that brought us back down in frequency and into a devastation. All right, it's talking about that. And it talks about 950 billion years of creation in this particular time wave in this universe. And how devastation happened 450 billion years ago when certain parts of consciousness, through their free will experience, had actually got to a point where they went to the impossible. Instead of remaining as a creative unit where all the members were creating together in love, they went to the boundaries of possibility and they started doing experiments to see how far the will of God, Creator, would go. And they fell into devastation. And when they fell into devastation, they actually cut their supply line off, and they had a certain amount of residual energy, but they started creating technologies to invade other living systems so that they could siphon energy out of other living systems. And that's pretty much what you see happening on the planet today. As we give our power away to other entities, energies, things that operate through the template of our own hologram, why we do things we don't want to do, why we experience sorrow and grief, etc., etc. Now, we also experience joy, and that's what we're here to really practice. We're here to practice how to experience joy in our heart, in our mind, in our relationships. And I say, thank God there is a way to regenerate the template of our own existence, to restore these flows of energy which are direct communication with Source. It seems to be quite a message, but when we can look at it and say, well, look, I can look around the world today and say, yeah, I can see exactly what you're saying. There's all these things that are encroaching upon us in an ever-increasing tighter and tighter network of controls. And each one is locking us into like a prison house of experience, where we say, I can't go down the road in freedom because I'm always looking for a speed camera, I'm always looking for this, I'm always looking for that. I have to pay this, I have to pay that, right? And these guys have got you so stitched up that you're frightened to think, you're frightened to do anything. Even on the internet now, with what's happening with Australia, the internet and all around the world, they've got you stitched up that if you say something wrong, they can actually switch your computer off like that from their control network, right? So these are the sort of things that run in our lives. I think we're all pretty aware of the controls. And a lot of it is this intruder race line kind of invasion. We call them intruders, invaders, that come in here pretending to be teachers, pretending to be spiritual masters, pretending to be something that can help us. And because we're devastated, we tend to put our trust in a lot of these other entities, which themselves are not fully evolved entities. They're quite, they're pretending to be very, very helpful. And I understand through this work, Ashiana Dean was the one who brought this out. She says, yes, there's a lot of people who can channel. Why? Because we have connections in higher dimensions where we do channel. And quite often we're channeling energies and entities which may appear to be beneficial but may not be. And they can siphon us into their kind of matrix of control and manipulate us just through our own trust. Ashiana talks about you are your own reality. You have full power, full authority, you have divine will, and you are connected at the top. You're connected at the top. So you wouldn't exist here unless you did have some threads of connection at the very, very, very top. Also in us, we have a record of historical experiences as a body of humanity. Because we all share one mind, and we have an individual mindset in that, but corporately, as a community on the planet, for example, we all share one mind. Even though we might not all share the same ideas, they're all sort of interlinking together. And so there is a history of devastation that's archived down in the biological apparatus called this body, that's continuously reminding us of what's happened in the past. So there we have a high connection. We also have some deep despair within the template of our own body. And the good news is we can get out of this. And it comes through your own determination to take up the offer that's here. And in this work of Kathara, they call it the hosting system. The hosting system, where there are many, many higher entities which are still in semi kind of devastation, but they're on the ascension pathway, and they can help you with a good heart of love, and they can help you because they're actually members of your original family back in time. And we have the genetics that are connected to some of these founding race lines that actually created life on the planet here. Even see, if you can remember that I said that this Earth fell from a higher organic system into a lower system of what we call regenesis. We're regenerating structure. There were guardians put onto the planet to help regulate energy and raise consciousness of all the plants and creatures and everything else, to raise it up into a perpetual motion system again. So there are helpful ones around, but there are also ones that come in deliberately to, suck energy back out. Well, this work talks about how that devastation takes place. It talks about how a certain quantum of our own energy, if you could see just like one atom might have proton, neutrons, electrons, and might have many fields of spinning energies. They're not actually particles, they're actually energies that look like particles in time, but there's many, many subatomic particles even on those small particles. And all of them have interconnecting membranes that share information between the whole creation. And so certain quantum of energy on certain fields is spun off in a reverse direction that actually siphons out a certain quantum into another matrix, and we're depleted, and that one is sustained by stealing energy from manipulation and through technology. Electromagnetic field on the planet, for example, what they call frequency fence, and also other controls that come from right out in the galaxy. Scientists today can see that there's a triangulation coming from some point in the galaxy that locks into Earth grid and siphons energy out. And the core of this Earth is actually connected to the core of this galaxy, and it's a siphoning wormhole, time rip technology tunnel extracting energy from living systems into a dying system. Now that's not the organic original creation, but that's how we experience life here in the devastation that we know here. I don't want to be down on our possibility of ascending, because I like to promote a method and a way to actually reinvigorate yourself and to reconnect back into source codes, regenerate the DNA structure into a more living system more and more and more, and restore perpetual motion life. So that's a little bit about Kathara, and it's very, very technical. I got into it in 2007 and practiced it for about 7 years anyway, nearly 7 years. And we had a group running in Burwood there for 7 years every week, 6.5 years every week. And we're practicing the technologies, and their technologies are like this. DNA is created through language. What you hear spoken to you is recorded by your body and stored as information in the membranes of the DNA structure of the chromosomes, etc. So whatever environment you're in, you're recording it, you're becoming that, and you project it into your space-time fields, and you perceive it as the witness of what you are. So as we've been programmed by this world, and we've taken in the education, we've taken in all the information of our upbringing through our forebears who have also been in a state of devastation, we've been taking on all their information, archiving it, in our mind, which is outside of the body. The body's a projection from your mind into space-time, but it's also a witness of what you think your mind is. So we actually find out that the body is holding information of distortions, and it's basically caused through whatever we've perceived through the five senses. Mainly sight, mainly sound. So whatever you bring in through the optical pineal gland induction, you store down as archives of your self-identity, and your mind is constantly projecting it onto the screen of your hologram, and you're perceiving it constantly. That's what this world is. How do we change it? Well, it's saying that our original 12-strand DNA, that's what they talk about, was created by our angelic self, which came from the heavens, above time, came from eternity, stepped down into different densities, and manifested in a matter manifestation template. And in an organic system, we would have had a way of just, okay, you come down, you experience things in different densities, and you create yourself in time a perfect record of your experience, and that's still organic. But we're in an inorganic system here. So how do we learn? We learn by bringing in sound tones of origination back into the template of your own hologram to overwrite the distortions of the sound tones and the light fields of our programming. So how do we do it? We used singing. We used to do it in Kathara. We had a thing called dial-up. So we would actually say, you know, every week we'd sit there with our thing, we'd say it. It starts off like, in the name of the Melchizedek cloister, Emerald Order of the Holy One, the Unified. We'd actually start addressing the orders of like hierarchy. In the fallen consciousness, there's hierarchy. In the whole consciousness, there's no hierarchy. So stepping down into time, there's a hierarchy. And there is a consciousness command sequence that you would actually make an invocation to connect to certain parts of consciousness that will come online. Original DNA strands that were your original codes will come back onto line through your own command to bring them into your own vessel. So we would actually make command tones. And we would sing songs. And if you look at every tradition, if you look religiously around the place, and even not religiously, but people, humans in general, they love singing. And singing is a very, very happy thing to do. It's a very, very happy thing to do. And when you're doing it with intention and purpose, you can actually say, okay, if we are created by language, which is what this teaching is, our DNA is a language sequence, steps down into densities, and we have lost our language here. Our language is distorted. Even I studied, how language is constructed and how they've used different kind of languages to actually throw your mind into loops and close circuits so that you can't actually penetrate high dimensional thought. Because language, sound tones, actually connect to constellations and configurations of star patterns that represent your higher dimensional self. So when you actually bring those higher parts of yourself back online through sound tones, you're actually regenerating the structure of your biological anatomy. So we used to do this dial-up stuff, and I'll tell you what, when I started actually doing it and trusting it, it works, because my voice and the resonance of my voice when I'm speaking in my private moments of meditation, and I'm working during the day, I've got a place where I work, it's not particularly hard to sing songs to myself all day, right? I've always had that opportunity to do that. And the songs come spontaneously from a restructuring of a higher dimension, and you can feel angels joining you and singing with you, because they are a part of your original creation. They're a part of your original creation. These beautiful angelic beings, that the way I've learned it is like through Course in Miracles. Anyone done a Course in Miracles?
I've got the book in the car.
You do a Course in Miracles?
Yeah.
Well, Jesus in A Course in Miracles is always saying about the symphony of life, and how that we are a symphony, and each of us is a little wisp of melody. So we're all a part of the universal song, and the angels are really the thoughts in the mind of God. If you want to say the word God, I mean, it's my word, right? So in the mind of Creator, the constitution of all of the angels, which are thoughts about the offspring. So I have an angel which is my original angel, and it's one of the thoughts in the mind of God. And everyone is an angel, and they're all in that mind of God. So if the symphony of life is the constitution of all of those angels harmonically singing together as a symphony of life, where you might say the higher dimension is singing into the lower dimension, and the lower dimension is harmonically attuning to the higher dimension, and your body's becoming the apparatus of song, you're actually harmonically attuning yourself to the entirety through song. And that's not only what I learned about that, but A Course in Miracles, I've done that since 1998, and I've practiced it nearly every day. And then I went on to this, then I've done other things, Way of Mastery was another work that came out, and it's called The Way of the Heart. It teaches you how to open the heart and to tune into source within yourself. The Way of Transformation, in other words, you're renewing your mind. So the next thing is the way of knowing. So when you've renewed your mind, you do know. And what do you know? You know what you forgot. You've always got it in you, it's always in you. You can't lose it, but you can cover it over with all the thoughts and concepts of an alien world. So the Way of Mastery has been a very helpful thing. I did that 3 years running consecutively. I also like this book here. It's a thing called Thinking in Destiny. Some of you guys might have seen it advertised on Nexus magazine or something. And it tells you that no matter who you are, if you put your mind and intention on finding out the core truth, you will find it because of your own desire to find it, and it will come to you. It will come to you.
See, can you reply?
Knock and the door shall be open. See that? I also have a Christian background since about 1996. Even though when I was a child, I had many experiences of angels, and when I used to go to church as a little kid at Sunday school, they would read the Bible and I'd see all these visions, right? And I thought, well, that's normal. But that faded away and it disappeared until I was about the age of 45, right? And at the age of 45, I had my big collapse, my mental breakthrough, right? And I rediscovered the power of my original God self. I call it God self. People might not like to use that word, but you can put your own word in there. Original source code, original eternity, that which is beyond time, that which is, your true source and self. I rediscovered that one in myself. And we found that through the name of Jesus, which in the book here, it says that that was the one who brought into himself the ingathering of all things through space and time. In other words, from the beginning of time, right through until time was completed in one member. See, because it says, we all are the wholeness before time. We all individually fell into time and created in our mind, what's going on? Well, I don't know what's going on. And one, out of all that devastation, finally ingathered all the information of what everything is. And it says he received every one of us as the members of himself. He said, if anything is whole, it must be everything. In other words, only everything exists, apart from which is nothing. Right? Only everything exists, apart from which is nothing. So if you think you're separated from everything, you're nothing actually, because only the totality is whole. Any deviation and discrepancy from wholeness puts you in the other side of things where you haven't accepted everything as your own reality.
I think thinking out that sounds like religion. That's what they do, like accept it all as a whole.
Yeah, it is. And Asciano actually said, religion had an original purpose. When this planet and other planets fell into devastation from a higher dimension because of intruder raceline interference, siphoning their energy, and the planet could no longer sustain itself in a perpetual motion fashion, it actually fell in frequency and became in a state of decay. So there was a regenesis program on planet through guardians who came on to actually guide and direct energy flows in the 12 stargates of the planet. She talks about the 12 stargates. We've got a body here that's got 12 systems, right? We've got a Mazzaroth or a zodiac that's got 12 houses there. And we know that it directly relates to our own body, right? Every 2 hours we rotate through another house of heaven, right? So we go from Sagittarius to whatever. I don't know them all off by heart, but I know that there are 12 systems in the body. I know that there are 12 cranial nerves around the head. I know that the whole setup of the body is an exact replica of the universe in inversion and in convolution. It's like it seems very strange. We did a lot of technologies here to actually rejoin some of the original structure back internally to get perpetual motion life flows back into the body. So we know that every one of us is a universe. We're whole and complete in ourselves. And that what actually happens is when you exclude everyone from yourself, and see them outside, and you project, like I'm projecting all of you now from my mind. There's nothing, I'm not even here. This is what the teaching is. I'm not even here really, but I've projected all the history of my idea of separation. I'm continuously projecting it and perceiving it in my hologram. So here I am, looking at all of you, and you're all a part of me. But if I suddenly saw you the way that God sees you, in my mind, I would disappear, and so would my world. And that was what the demonstration of Jesus Christ was, that he said, this world's not true. It's a projection of a vain imagination, a corporate delusion of confusion. Everyone is projecting their own idea of separation, and they're seeing a world in devastation. But if I can gather everything into myself as one and see you all as members of myself, I will actually disappear from here, and this hologram of illusion will dissolve in the light of the power of reunion, and so will my world. So, you might say, oh, but aren't we trying to make this into a better world? Well, that which is in part can never be made whole, because it is a vain imagination. But if you bring your vain imaginations to the truth will dissolve the discrepancy, and the real world will start to appear where you'd seen the devastation from the projection of your own mind. So it's like, are we going to continue to project a vain imagination and try in our separation to make this perfect? It's impossible. But we are able to bring our imagination back to the truth within us, let the light shine through that darkness we used to behold, and we can actually start to see the real world appear in our very eyes, right in front of us. That's what the teaching of all of these are, right? I've worked it out for myself in a way that I said, well, what's the use of receiving somebody else's teaching when I'm the one I've got to prove it to? I must prove it to myself. It's me I'm going to prove it to, and therefore it must be in my own mind a reworking of understanding, a conversion, a transformation in my own mind that's going to do it for me so that I can prove it to myself. I can't prove it to anyone else. So I started to actually say to myself, I'm going to take it very seriously. I'm going to say, okay, what can I do? And I started practicing the things that A Course in Miracles says, right? Today's lesson, what's today's lesson? What is it, 228, is it?
I don't know, I've gone back, I started it a while ago, got to the 200 and something, and then I had a break, I've gone back to reading all the beginning.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to read the beginning again.
Graham, do you want to explain about the Course in Miracles and how it came into being?
I can
Because
do.
it's the most incredible story. It's a channeled book. This woman was breaking up with a partner, and she wanted to know how she could actually get back with him again. And she started to channel. She didn't even understand it.
No, she worked in a university and they were actually having problems.
You explained it to me, yeah.
Yeah, they were actually having problems in that work environment, and they decided they had to do a better way, and she started having visions, she started having dreams, all that kind of thing, and they eventually the writing started. She said she could stop and start it, but the writing started. And at first she said she was an atheist and she couldn't, she was in psychology, but she was actually an atheist and she couldn't really agree with a lot of what she was writing. But book came into being, it was channeled through Jesus Christ.
It was a very interesting story. I've got a video on it, actually.
And it ended up a suitcase of papers, like 6 years of channeling. And apparently she could just start and go and answer the phone and come back, and it would just go on channeling like she hadn't even stopped. And this is the Course in Miracles, and it's a lot of people really get a lot of
It comes
help
through
from it.
practice, and what it says there is, if you believe it, it'll be true for you. If you don't believe it, it's just a book. Right? And you can read it as a book, just like you can read any book as a book, but if you find something in there, you say, I'm going to try that. And that's where the old faith thing comes in, because faith is the most certain thing in the world, right? Because this world's totally uncertain, right? So faith is the substance, going back to the Bible, faith is the substance of things unseen, right? And what does it say? I'm going to check it out. But it is, this to me is a metaphysical book. It's also a fairy tale book, because It's a book. It's a group of. Oh, here you go. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. By it, the elders obtained a good report, and through it, we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. So, in other words, whatever's physical was made by something that you can't see. So, the matter manifestation came from a higher dimensional structure that supported the matter manifestation template. So, science today, what's science trying to say? Everything is natural, everything is materialistic, everything's mechanical, Newtonian physics, everything is just as you see it in a physical world. And what do all these say? Everything you can see with your eyes is framed from another dimension that actually brought it into manifestation.
Therefore, Grant, everything that's on the earth now has been created from upstairs.
Yes, it has, even though it's in a state of devastation, because prior to this it was much more magnificent. When the consciousness was more intact and perpetual motion life was almost complete. Like, I mean, in the original, what they call Tara, is what she calls it in the Ashiana books. You have the, the Gaia, Tara Gaia. You have harmonic universes of matter manifestation template. You can have either organic structure or inorganic. This is inorganic. It's in a state of decay. Everything here's got a half-life.
So
Everything's falling down.
Sorry, that would still be created from upstairs though.
Everything is created from upstairs, except this here. When this here finally dissolves back into reality, you won't observe anything here, but you'll be in a place which is perfect and whole and perpetual motion, and there'll be no devastation or destruction anywhere. In other words, this has been torn out of. This has been torn out of unity and become a decaying system. You know, it's being pulled down black hole in the centre of this galaxy. It's being pulled down and consumed. The quantum base is being consumed by another parallel universal complex which is feeding off this system through time-ripper technology. There's a whole lot of stuff about this.
But upstairs has allowed that.
Well, upstairs allows everything.
Yeah, okay.
Upstairs allows everything. What will you do, my children? What will you do? What do you want to create?
Free will.
You know, because God's source creates through all of us simultaneously.
That's the key word though, isn't it? We are creators.
Co-creators.
So all this mess that we're in now, we've been co-creating.
We're also the ones who have been intruded upon. We were in a living system, we've been intruded upon because it was a long time ago where the devastation occurred, and it's still repeating itself into living systems. What the Course in Miracles says is, a long time ago the devastation took place, but it was corrected instantly. The moment it took place, it was answered immediately, but the residual memory of the devastation is still in perpetuation, and we're living it out time after time after time after time. The answer has been given, and yet we haven't received the answer in our own consciousness. So what we're doing here is perpetuating the illusion and the delusion of the devastation that happened billions of years ago, and the answer's already been given. And that's what I believe Jesus came to teach. When he said this world is finished, it's finished. I've cast down my vain imaginations. I've destroyed the works of the devil. The devil is only human consciousness that's in a state of error, right? That's all it is. That's what it means. It's just a word they use. And it does become a devil to you when you're using an alien mind because it's not doing you any good at all. But there is a mind within us that works perfectly. When we start to use it, we're going to have to dismantle the old mind that's causing us all this trouble.
By seeking the answer.
Seeking
the answer.
If you seek the answer with determination to find it, it'll come to you because you really want it. If you are going through the rote, if you're going through the procedure of a religious structure and you don't want to find it, you won't find it. The answer is already within every one of us. And that's the wonderful thing about it. It's already within us fully. Because it cannot change. What God created you as can never, never change. You can overlayer it with a lot of different stuff and see that as your reality. But when you decide to collapse your own illusion about the world and bring it back to the truth will enlighten it, and all the treasure that's hidden in the darkness will be enlivened, and you'll say, wow, I was hiding the treasure in the darkness of my own mind. because I've been taught that through space-time. So that's what the teaching is. The teaching is all of us are tricking ourselves all the time, and we're trying to do our very best. Every one of us is trying to do our very best, and we're only doing what we've been taught.
And what we'll find at the end is the divine flame within.
Well, the divine flame, it's the perfect flame of origination, you know, on the altar of your own temple. On the altar of your own temple is that perfect flame, that light, that touches every other light simultaneously. And it can only shine out to touch other lights when you've dissolved the fabric of space-time that's blocking it off from communication. And it's called the body. Because what they say is this body is a record of space-time depravity, delusion, records of alienation, records of pain and anguish and separation. The DNA is an exact archiving of the separation from source. So we can regenerate the DNA and make it clear and clean when we decide to bring all of the history back to the light and dissolve the history. Because, you know, we know that past doesn't exist. We know future doesn't exist. Right now, what we're observing, if we've got our old mind working, we're observing the past. Everything right now is a projection of the past record of your mind, witnessed now again. It's still repeating the past, repeating the past, repeating the past. If we go down, right down, and touch the source of life within us, and bring that light into the darkness, we'll dissolve the history, and we will no longer project a future, much like the past, which is all separation from source.
So what we are is the quintessence of light, isn't it? And once we reach back into that light, all the rest dissolves.
You can dissolve the dark constructs of your mind by bringing them to the light. What the teaching is, God won't join you in your illusion, but you can bring your illusion back to the truth and dismantle your own misperception.
Exactly. So it's up to each and every one of us to do that.
That's what the teaching is, and that's what I like to teach, because I'm proving to myself that it's a reality.
Me too.
And the more you teach, see, because what the Course of Miracles says is, you teach what you want to learn, and you learn what you teach. Now, if you want to learn that you're a burglar and a robber and a murderer and a warmonger, you'll teach that and you'll perfect it and you'll become very good at it. If you want to teach yourself that you're a loving, kind, beautiful being with all power given to you to transcend the limitations of this world, that's what you'll teach yourself. So you're going to teach yourself what you want to learn, and you will learn what you want to teach.
Because in a sense, we're creators, so that's what we're creating for ourselves, isn't it?
The Bible, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If you're thinking that, you're attracting that to you, you're projecting it, you're perceiving it, and that's your reality. But if you want to change something in you and emanate and radiate and recreate something better or something lovely, that's what you'll do. So, do we want a break?
Would we like a tea break? I think we probably would, thanks.
I know this gets heavy duty sometimes.
Oh, it's wonderful. I just always to get reminded constantly of who we can be and what we really are.
Graham, can I just ask the question, the destruction you're talking about, I accept. Where does Lemuria and Atlantis fit into that destruction story?
I think
This destruction you're talking about is before them?
Oh yeah.
Long before.
Atlantis and Lemuria were probably 50,000, sort of 70,000 years ago.
Okay.
On history, as far as this world's concerned. Yeah. But we're talking going back. This Earth was in regenesis 560 million years ago. Teams came from different dimensional structures to come and regenerate the Earth 560 million years ago. There's been 3 seedings of consciousness on this planet in the last, 500,000 years.
So it's this constant, perennial incarnation of the planet.
But it's been devastated by intruder race lines each time, and even now we're under severe attack. That's why I like to speak to people to give them a power in themselves to not comply with the programming of this world. Because the moment you continue to comply with the demands of this world, you're not going to resist it. You're going to find the despair within yourself, because what this world does is, as it becomes such a terrible thing to you, is going to expose some of the history within your own archiving of identity, and you're going to see where you have been participating with that before, And you're also going to see where they're still coded to you and still trying to pull you through those deep fields of your history, because they're still connected in the matrix to that. But when you can say to yourself, I want to bring regenesis to that point right there, I can feel that point right there. Yes, that's it. I'm going to bring that to the light. It's me. I'm responsible for that. I'm going to do it now. And you see it and you bring it. And
You become your authentic self
Mm.
without being distorted with teachings and learning.
Not really sure how to ask this question that's in my mind. It's probably not clear in my mind, but when you say you've been reseeded several times and people have come from all other sort of like structures or places in the universe, were they from different places? So essentially, are we all going to be a little bit different in some way? And if, for instance, if I was American Indian, there would always be that trace of that line going through. So is it the same with the seeding, that whatever you were reseeded with or would be part of your structure in some way, your originality?
Yeah.
Or
Whatever you experience here, like if say for example, this book explains it so well, of all the different race lines, it names many of them, and how certain kind of DNA constructs came from this family founding race line, was blended with this one, so that they could regenerate some of these fallen ones, all different blends of different DNA race line background. And they all originate from source, but they all come down into experiential reality and shared information and community, so they've all got a history. So it's the history that really that we're going to be dissolving of the discrepancy. But they did come from all different places. And if you want to have a look at that book, it'll tell you many different race lines of histories that have come in.
May I ask too, Grant, before that you were saying there was 3 original seeds or founders? Who were they, if I can ask?
I can check it out. It was one of them was called the.
Was it Melchizedek or was it?
Well, Melchizedek
Christ?
is one of the types of family lines that came in, and they even split up. And you can imagine, like a pure line would have come in, and corruption could have come into quite a few of those Melchizedek lines. And some of them ended up working for another agenda. Some of them remained strong in their calling.
Grant, were there 12
Original founders
original seed lines?
of Israel.
There were 12 dimensional structures that came in, 12 stargates on the planet, and they were seeded from different blends of different race lines throughout the galaxies and throughout the universe.
Like different, yeah.
So look, I can't recall them all offhand, but
That's all right.
if you go into the index on this book, let me just see if I can find something
Don't
here.
worry.
I don't know where
I wondered if it was linked to the threefold flame.
Yes, the threefold flame is
That's
the
where
core.
the original flame.
That's the core flame that came in through the core of the earth,
Yeah.
through what we call the ethers
Yeah.
of the earth. Actually, the vapor. They call them vapors. Then you've got the liquid, and then you've got different structures internally in the earth. That's where all the inner earth races and that came from. And then the emergence on the surface, as they came from the core, these race lines emerged from the core through different levels onto the earth through the 12 stargates. And they set up settlements there.
And they were original Earth ones, or they were intruder races.
No, original ones were hosting
In the core.
here as guardians to
Yes.
regenerate structure on the earth
Okay.
and to bring it back into balance and raise it back to high dimensional frequency band to become organic system again. But
Oh,
then
I
the
see.
intruders came in at a certain point in time and started distorting the teachings, because they had 12 teachings, one for every stargate. And so what would happen in the early days of regenesis, there was a lifespan, so they'd come up to a certain age, get old, they'd die, then reincarnate in the next stargate system. And they get the 12th of the knowledge as they went round, so they all had the
Okay.
1/12 of the knowledge.
A bit like the star signs, how the souls go through each one.
It comes basically in sets of 12,
Yeah.
with a central core of a 13.
So we have to then track back to each one of those 12 to be complete in ourselves, don't we?
What I found, this stuff's very good. It talks about the history and the devastation and the regeneration and the metaphysics of it. This one says the work has already been finished. All you've got to do is tap in and receive the work. It's what they call the at-one-ment, the atonement. So why should we go back struggling through all our history, you know?
Atonement? Is this defined music in some way, shape or form? He says singing.
Atonement, is very good.
But just in the words. Just
Yeah,
coincidentally in the words.
It's very, very good recognition you picked up there, because it is a tone. Everything is a tonal signature.
Yeah.
Even as we have a lone harmonic of self-identity.
Yeah, it all goes up.
It's a tone, but it also means at-one-ment as well. So atonement would be when you're bringing yourself back into full tone with the frequency or the song of love, right? And it means, atonement means correction of error. So everything that we perceive here is a distorted consciousness, and it's error of thinking. See, the biblical term says sin consciousness, but these other two books say there is no sin. It's only an idea of separation, which people then felt guilty about, and they kept themselves in separation because they thought that their creator was angry with them. They created a false god in their own concepts. But atonement is correction of error of your own thought, because you came into false teachings, you came into devastation, you misperceived the reality because of the teachings. But you can learn again the teachings, and what the Bible talks about is you have an original sound tone of your own lone harmonic of self-identity that's anchored in eternity, and you being in time can regenerate the full structure of your DNA template through atoning yourself to your original call of that voice that's in you. And that original voice is God voice. You. It's original voice. And all the voices of this world will slowly start to dissipate, because we hear one of two voices. We hear our original voice, or we hear the voices of this corporate cacophony of sound. We hear the teachings of dead men, or we hear the living voice. The living voice is your voice of God. It's your original self anchored in heaven, now trying to speak to you so that you would speak life to yourself and everyone around you.
I would say that as a personal observation, like I've got a personal vendetta against religion for that very reason, that maybe once upon a time it did speak on that level of light, but now it's just part of the whole corporation, and making you feel like you have to follow it verbatim, or else you're an outcast or heretical. It's sort of lost the way, I feel.
Everyone in the world's lost their way. I do a lot of study on religions and historical background to see even the degradation of the original influx of Christ. You know, people say, oh, maybe he didn't even come here.
Yeah.
People say maybe he did. And I tell you, if you're looking for information about him being here, you can find it. If you're looking for information about him not being here, you'll find it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, even if Jesus didn't exist on this planet 2,000 years ago, I believe that the solution is at hand within you, and that it has been completed, and it's available.
Secret, and you will find whatever you ask.
See, because I found it by
Does
myself.
he exist or not?
I proved it to myself through believing it.
Whatever you want.
And when you believe that you have something inside of you so precious and beautiful, and that you're prepared to tap into it and let it reteach you, right, what you are and how wonderful, you are willing then to dissolve all the discrepancies that you hold in your mind currently about yourself.
And trust the divine guidance. It's going to take you to the lesson that you need, that you don't,
Totally.
like you found the right
Totally.
book at the right time, or
Yep.
some person at the right time.
We all came through different symbol codes of devastation. I can't say that my way would be perfect for everyone, because everyone has, like, we all step down the mountain a different way, and we recognise that bush, that rock, as we're going back up. Oh, I know this one. But why can I say, why don't you come with me around this way? But I don't recognise that way. But we all came from source, and we all have symbols in our mind that represent certain particular things to us that we know, and we can step back up through those light reassociations of communication in our own mind.
So if it feels right in your heart, that's right for you.
You generally know when something's true. The goosebumps come up on your arms and all that sort of stuff, you know. And, you know, I don't know, there's a lot of people, a lot of hosts around us that's trying to help us, and there's a lot around us that can be devastating as well. So what are you going to do? It's like, I'm going to tune into my own original self. And we have an original self.
Sometimes it's just a feeling, isn't it? That one can say beautiful words and another can say beautiful words. And somehow there just seems to be that difference. They can be saying the same thing, but one of them seems to just be different.
You know, in that book there, the Bible there, it says, this is what Jesus said in the book. And I see a lot of mysteries, a lot of metaphors, allegory. I see it as a book of something beyond, you know, the history of things. There's something beyond it. It says, my words are spirit and they are life. Now, other people speak words and they're disharmonic frequency keys of an oscillation and a vibration of distortion, and you can't resonate with them. But the one who's anchored in heaven and speaking in earth and speaking truth, it hits a part of you that you know it's true, and it gives life to you.
It's like truth is truth, and there is no other.
It's like, yeah, you can't, like people I know that are atheists, they're like, I need evidence of, you know, things like that. But when I'm trying to describe that, I can't be an atheist, because when I feel that feeling, like, I can't tell you what it's like, I can't prove that I'm feeling it, but I know it, I'm feeling it. So that for me is, yeah, my truth. So,
That's yours.
you know,
That's
if
yours.
people don't feel that,
It's not a feeling.
but if a person closest to themselves like doesn't feel that, then how can you show them what it feels
You
like?
can't.
You can't. So, yeah,
Where
it's,
you get that feeling? That's gone.
yeah.
So I talk on a broad spectrum of my own personal experiences. I've had experiences when I first got born again. I say born again, it was like what the church calls a born again experience, quickened. You know, they say in the Bible that the human spirit is disconnected from source, and we're living an existence here as a body in space-time without much real purpose. You know, we're just going to live and die and that's it. But when you get quickened, your human spirit gets regenerated. Oh, right, I've got a vague memory, or it's a clear memory of something far greater. Well, that was the experience I had. And when that happened to me, I went out and it was like I was looking at the sun, and I went straight into the sun, straight into like a star system, and I just went through all of those suns. And then I went into billions and squillions of countless suns. I just joined them all simultaneously. And it was like a boom. I'm everything. I'm everything. And I know that every one of us are everything.
That's
Every
us.
one of us. Because without each of, you know, without everyone, I'm nothing.
That's it.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Oh,
Talking about John of God, Jen and I met at John of God
In
in
Brazil.
2005. That's where I met John. I met Jim. What's your name again?
I'm Jennifer, not John.
it might have been.
Yes, look, I like talking about this sort of stuff. I can speak for hours on it. In actual fact, I do preach to Christians about truth that they've been looking for but haven't found.
How do they take it? Do they say?
I've been shut off the internet a few times, but
Yeah.
they don't like it. And like Jen and I go to church every day, every Sunday, just as a matter of fellowship for Jen. She's from France and hasn't got a lot of friends out here. But we go to church every Sunday, and today they're preaching about something that they believe is what I call a doctrine of dead men. In other words, dead men have preached it. They made a franchise operation out of the church, and they made it an institution, and yet if they spoke truth, the church would empty out overnight, because people say, I don't need the church.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But-
That's the whole point.
Well, they are emptying, aren't they?
But the same thing is for every other institution as well, by the way. Anything on planet Earth is the same scenario.
Yeah,
Right?
every religion's got the same.
Everything is the same.
Yeah.
But what are you grinning about then?
Oh, well, you know, we wouldn't be anywhere. We'd be able to just be out in nature and not even, there's no need to learn anything more because we already know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to say to ourselves, regenerate.
Yeah, no need to buy, no need to sell.
No buying and selling. That's what the Bible's saying. Soul trading, where men are taking energy from your soul as you subscribe to their faction. You give energy to them and you put your trust in them to help you. Look what this world's become, a corporate conglomerate, right? And that's what it is.
Like with electricity and things. you
Everything. You look at any aspect,
Water, environment.
anything.
Yeah.
It's separation from source, and it's dependency on man's own ingenuity.
And it's,
and then dead because you're going to die anyway. That's it.
That's it, yeah, in a nutshell.
Right? But if you want to live, it says in the Bible, there is a way that seems right to man, but which ends in death. But I will show you a more excellent way. Right?
There's a lasting life, isn't it?
Well, it does becomes a restructuring of your own template of your being, so that you can actually overcome death in the body and transform the body back into light and disappear from here. That's the demonstration. Right?
I'll be here next week then.
Because the mind, this is the whole teaching of A Course in Miracles. The mind, being sick, projects a body of sickness and death. But the mind, being revivified, will dissolve this outer tent and transfigure it back into a living light vessel, and it'll disappear into higher dimensional structure.
and you become such a light being with everybody when you walk into the room. Is that what you mean?
All of us are so capable of generating this light more and more.
Well,
All of us.
many civilizations have done that, Grant, haven't they?
Well, it's,
The Mayans dematerialised.
we look at all the history, in this book, for example, they came and went. Many, like she talks about the pyramids and how they had ascension through the pyramid structures and everything else, right, back in those days. Right? Man's been flying away from this planet for ages. Those who can go, go. Those who are stuck, are stuck. And who was it you were saying before about the different genetics that we've got? Some are coded down into a more heavy, drag you down kind of a structure, and we need those who are lifting up with some of our codes to actually regenerate structure for them to come up. So we're all tethered together into a seamless, it's like a seamless unfolding and unfurling of, as David Bohm put it, implicate and explicate order. It's like things are folding and turning and undoing themselves, unknotting themselves, but we can't escape by ourselves. It must be we all escape together. Some go ahead of others, but they're still working to help us get up there.
So you're saying that, when our time is right, when we've ascended enough,
You get the
and
quantum
we'll
to go.
ascended. And there may be a lot of people perhaps who are still going to remain on planet Earth to sort of work a bit longer or harder or further or
Yep.
whatever before they can.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. We're here, and this work here, she says that the planet Earth is being hosted by another star, which is all around it, linked into all the dimensional structure. There's a hosting star called Eartha, which is actually revivifying the Earth and regenerating structure here, or at least getting souls off here and taking quantum into a high dimension, so that when this particular star system does do starfire and goes to high dimension, some of the quantum from Earth will have already joined her and gone. Right.
And do you think some will have to go to other planets or something to?
Regenesis planets, that's what this is all about. When you get enough quantum generated in your DNA strands, she talks about the accretion of, the completion of strands 1, 2, 3, 4.5. If you get 4.5 accretion and you've consummated those energy reconfigurations in your body, mind, you can actually reincarnate in a higher harmonic universe in another star system somewhere. You can be hosted out. But if you try to host out with a frequency that can't go into that dimension, you can't hold it.
No.
You can't take it.
I received the other day, and you can take this with a grain of salt, but this is what came through, and it was that the host planet for Earth has now left because Earth is strong enough and full of light enough to be substantial in her own body.
Lots happened in the last couple of years anyway, so let's hope that's right. But I also know that there is another kind of a helpfulness that's here at the moment as well. Could be something to do with the UFO phenomenon.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I've got that too.
Is that a positive thing?
Yeah, well, there's always good and bad. I mean, you only get what you put out, don't you? You only get what you put out.
So who put that out?
Eh?
The-
Well, let's put it this way. I went to a meeting last time you were there, Faye, with James Bartley. James Bartley, he was talking about the MyLab. Anyone heard about the MyLab, the military abductions and that? How a lot of the abductions and UFOs here, they're all not all of them, but a lot of them are done by military, and that the military themselves are training off planet for future events of the Earth,
Oh,
right? And they're taking UFO craft to different galaxies and doing training and bringing them back and everything else.
But how's it all secretly, no one hears about this sort of stuff?
Well, they have secret space program that NASA's got as well, and no one knows about what their secret program is. No one seems to know.
We're going to have a talk on this.
Okay,
As soon as I can find somebody that
let's have a cup of tea.
tell us all about it.
thank you, that was great.
That was